Hello everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report for the month of June. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with Governor Nixon's veto of House Bill 253, the huge state tax cut bill that would jeopardize the ability of the state to fund public education for years to come.
By punching an $800 million hole in our state budget, this bill would jeopardize our ability to fund basic public services that support our economy and our way of life. Services that keep dangerous criminals off the street, teach our kids the basic building blocks of knowledge, deliver meals to our elderly parents and grandparents, and help infants with developmental disabilities grow up healthy and strong and live up to their God-given potential. Gutting the budgets of public schools and public safety for the sake of an economic experiment is a gamble that Missourians are not willing to take.
Governor Nixon vetoed the bill during a news conference on June 5th in Kansas City. In the news release issued by the governor's office on the veto, MSBA Executive Director Dr. Carter Ward was quoted as saying, "Missouri can't afford to put state funding for our public schools in jeopardy with unaffordable and irresponsible tax cuts. We need to be making more investments in education, especially in early childhood education, not cutting the revenue available to fund our public schools. Quality public schools are not only important to our children and families, they're also vital to the economic health and vitality of our state." There still may be an attempt by the legislature to override the governor's veto. That override attempt would take place during the legislature's annual veto session in September. Please contact your legislators this summer and urge them not to override the veto of the tax cut bill. MSBA is part of the Coalition for Missouri's Future, a group of more than 20 organizations that will be working this summer to prevent an override of the governor's veto and will work against future state tax cuts that would threaten state funding for our schools. Missouri currently is underfunding the foundation formula for public education by about $600 million and has one of the lowest tax burdens in the nation. On the positive side, the General Assembly did approve an extension of provisions of the Sunshine Law that allow school districts to keep school safety and security plans closed.
Schools no longer have this provision that it is open for people to inspect, and there is no sunset on it. So our records concerning such activities and how we deal with intruders and how we deal with those kinds of questionable activities of outsiders are not subject to the Sunshine Law. So it's a very big win for students.
The Sunshine Law exemptions allowing school safety plans to be closed records expired earlier this year. This was a major legislative priority for MSBA during this year's legislative session. For a complete review of the legislative session, you can watch a special edition of MSBA's Capitol Watch program posted on the MSBA website. Our advocacy work on behalf of public education is not only important on the state level, but also on the federal level as well. MSBA is sponsoring a special visit to Washington, D.C. this summer. It's an opportunity for board members to meet with members of our congressional delegation to discuss federal education issues that are important to our public schools. That trip is scheduled for July 7th through 9th. Check the MSBA website for details if you're interested in making that trip to Washington, D.C. MSBA is excited to announce the digital release of the 14th edition of the Educator's Desk Reference, a guide to navigating policy and legal issues in Missouri schools. Member districts can now access the 14th edition free of charge on MSBA's website. The 14th edition includes guidance on many hot topics that affect Missouri educators, such as employee evaluations, the No Child Left Behind flexibility waiver, students in foster care, emergency medications, cyberbullying, and many others. Registration is now open for the 2013 MSBA Annual Conference in cooperation with the Missouri Association of School Administrators. This year's event is scheduled for October 3rd through 6th at the Lake of the Ozarks. We'll have another outstanding lineup of keynote speakers and more than 80 breakout sessions, all designed to improve the leadership skills of school board members and administrators. You can register for the annual conference on the MSBA website. MSBA's Center for Education Safety is sponsoring the annual Safe Schools and Colleges Conference, October 1st through 3rd, just prior to this year's annual conference. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.